Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of my Christmas junk journal series for this year 2021. So in this video I'm going to be going through my decisions about the cover, the size and the format and how I'm kind of getting started making the cover. So you can see on the screen now the junk journals from the last 2 years, which I did in quite a large size. They were quite chunky and thick. And then the previous 2 years before that were obviously a lot smaller and they were ring bound rather than sewn in signatures. And my conclusion after having a look at these previous versions is that I want to stick to the larger size, and I'm probably going to stick to sewn in signatures because I just like having like the finished book to hold in my hand at the end of it with nothing sort of loose. So I sort of decide I'm going to make it easy for myself this year. And I'm going to do all my signatures are going to be A4 folded in half, so they're basically A5. So I grabbed some thick card. Now this is really thick card. I think I pulled it off a book cover, so it's really good quality, really thick, and it's very hard to cut, I have to say, with my my little scalpel there. It takes me ages to get through. I had to change the blade, as you can see, several times. But eventually I cut through it. And the two pieces that I'm left up with for front and back cover are 22 centimetres tall and 16.5 centimetres wide. I don't have the inches, I'm sorry. I operate in centimetres because I'm British and I'm in Japan. But yeah, that size is going to basically give me a book that I can put A4 sheets folded in half for the signatures. So once I've got my front and back covers sorted out, it's time to decide on the spine width. So again, I'm just referencing the last 2 years. It seemed to be quite a good size for me to fill up. So I go for a spine width of 7 centimetres, and I'm just grabbing some packaging from a tripod to kind of reinforce the spine, because the card I was using for the spine was a lot thinner, but I wanted it to be pretty sturdy. So I'm cutting my spine 7 centimetres wide and 22 centimetres tall. So once I've got my 3 pieces, the front, the back and the spine, I just decide I'm going to stick them down on a piece of paper. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you know that I just make things up as I go along. I don't have any special techniques. Occasionally I might attempt a proper technique, but most of the time I'm just making it up. So you can proceed with your own caution if you decide to follow what I'm doing. It may not be the best way, it's just the way I'm doing it this year. So I decide I'm just plastering the whole thing, front and back, with just simply plain copy paper. The reason I'm doing this is honestly, I just want to get it all attached together. I want the front and the spine and the back all to be attached together. So that I can just start working on it. And I haven't got anything else to use apart from printer paper. Ideally, I'd love to use something like muslin, some sort of very flexible cloth and some lovely cloth glue, but I don't have it. So it's just printer paper. And I do that spacer thing along the spine. So between the front and the back covers, rather than having all the pieces of cardboard butted up against each other, you have to leave a little space. So there's flexibility for the front and the back covers to bend around the spine. So I've done that, covered it all in paper, and it's now good to go for the next stage. Oh, and I am also using a tape because I noticed, obviously, I'm only using like cheap, printer paper, which wasn't necessarily very sensible. That when I did bend the front and the back covers down, it was sort of ripping along the join, and I really want, obviously, you want that join between your covers and your spine to be pretty strong. It's got to hold the book together. So I got this tape. It is a bookbinding tape, and I bought it here in Japan. And the front of it, like the top surface, is paper, but the underneath surface seems to be some sort of metal, like it looks like aluminium tape or something. So I'm thinking it's going to be pretty strong, and it's meant to for bookbinding. So I simply cover both of the joins with this tape to kind of reinforce it, and hopefully that will keep it nice and strong. So now I've got my front and back and spine all assembled, all together, I'm ready to think about how I'm going to decorate it. Last year I did a fabric cover, which was really fun but very time consuming, and I'm kind of not feeling it quite so much this year. So I figured I would do sort of like paper collage on the cover. So I just got all the papers off my shelf and I started messing around with them. So going with the colour scheme that I decided on in my last video, which is sort of like a pinky pinky red and purple kind of thing going on. I just played around with paints, and I used fountain pen inks and watercolor and whatever I could basically get my hands on. And I tried all different types of paper. So here, this is it's an ink called Tsutsuji by Iroshizuku. It is a fountain pen ink, actually. And I'm using masking tape. This is actually sticker paper, but it's masking tape, like a really soft, thin one. So I covered it in ink, and then I splattered it with some sort of gold sparkly paints, just to see what kind of effect that gave me. And that was really, really fun. I've actually ordered some more sheets of that because I really enjoyed doing that, because a lot of the fountain pen inks have a sheen to them, so like a sparkly sheen, which is really nice. They are quite expensive, let's be honest. If you buy a fountain pen ink and you just cover a whole page with it, it's going to be more expensive than other mediums, but I'm never going to get through the whole bottle anyway in a fountain pen, so I really enjoyed doing that. I'm also using this paint from my Japanese watercolor set. When my son was doing some painting over the summer, and we used this paint, and as soon as we put it on the page, I was like, oh, that's a nice color. So I remembered, and I came back to get it. It's this one here, number 29. Coal by, and it's really lovely. It's just the right colour for my Christmas colour scheme, and as you can see, I'm already going all the way down to the bottom, running out already. So yeah, it's a very nice colour. This is what it looks like on my MD cotton note paper. So it's definitely a pinky sort of magenta-y red. It's very beautiful, and it goes with my colour scheme. So this is what it looks like painted onto a sort of thick Japanese paper, sticker paper. So it's an A4 sticker sheet that you can put through your printer, and it has a sort of a Japanese handmade paper texture to it. But I didn't put it through my printer, I just painted the ink all over it, the watercolour all over it, to see what that looked like. And I can cut this up, I can use it on my cover, I can cut it out into funny shapes, I can do whatever I like with it. This is the packaging for reference. So washi label printer paper. And then I had another version which had a slightly more of a coarse pattern. I think this is the one with the coarse pattern. But yeah, I'm just splatting around, trying out different techniques, putting different paint effects on. I'm using also, like I said, a sort of glittery watercolour over the top as well. This here is Noodler's Black Swan in Australian Rose, it said. That was a little sample kindly given to me by a friend, and that also had a little bit of a sheen in, so that was really nice to put on the paper. That went with my colour scheme. These are the watercolours with the glitter in, which I'm using, and they're so nice, and I get them out every year. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know that I was using this right at the beginning. I use these every year for my late Christmas journals, because I don't really use sparkle too much the rest of the year, but I enjoy doing it at Christmas. So this is a set by Creative Expressions, which is a British company, and they do still sell these, so I will put the website down below if you would like to have a look at them. So this page here is just like just all sorts of random things on. This is Ecoline liquid watercolor, which I put on. Just kind of mixing up all the colours, just playing around with the purples and the pinks and the glittery paints. And the next thing I do is, after I've exhausted all my sticker paper supplies, I grab this off the shelf. This is a book of wallpaper samples. So I bought this secondhand, like on a secondhand selling site quite a while ago, and I hadn't used it. And I thought I'd have a go. Now the issue with these these wallpapers, is they are designed obviously to go on your wall, but a lot of wallpaper in Japan is not water resistant, but it has they kind of design a lot of function into it, like anti-mold and anti this and that and the other. So I'm a feeling that a lot of the coating on it is going to actually hinder me putting the paint on. I did notice that one of these samples that I painted on, it was all coming off on my hands. So it's probably not very practical for painting, but I wanted to have a go anyway because I really enjoyed how the sort of glitter from the glitter paints sunk down into the cracks, and it made this really interesting texture with the paint and then the glitter on the papers. So I'm really excited to use these. Anything that I make and doesn't go on my cover is going to be used inside as part of like the junk journal-ish pages. So this is the one that just came off of my hands. Now this was a fountain pen ink on wallpaper, and it just, when I rubbed it, it just, you can see it's not soaking into the wallpaper at all whatsoever. And I think this one did say it had an anti-mold feature on it, which makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't really want wallpaper that would soak up moisture from the air. That would be a terrible thing, especially in Japan where it's so humid. But the other mediums did seem to stick a lot better. This one didn't actually come off on my finger so much, so that was all right. So yeah, my finger's completely ruined. And then the next thing I tried is alcohol markers, because I thought to myself, well, if you want something to stick really well, probably the best bet is to try and use an alcohol marker. So I used my Copic Chow markers, and it did feel a little bit tacky, I have to say, but this was not long after having done it. So perhaps if I wait a little bit longer, it won't be quite so sticky. But I just played around with the different colours that I have just to see if I could use any of these inside the junk journal. It was quite nice to play with the textures as well, to see the textures come through. But as I say, it's just experimentation and playing around at this point. So on to making the pieces for the cover. Now, I have this idea for the cover, and it came from me wanting to get a new Hobonichi cover, which I know I shouldn't get. I can't afford one. I've actually very recently sold a lot of my Hobonichi planner covers because I need to get some money. But I've had my eye on the sort of the gingham plaid covers since, well, I love the gingham plaid covers they do every year. And there were a couple that came out last year that I really liked, and I didn't get them. And they're kind of like in the back of my mind all the time. Should I get them? Should I not get them? Anyway, I'm glad I didn't get them because I don't actually need them, let's be honest. But I thought to myself, rather than like drooling over these covers with the lovely gingham on, why didn't I just make one and I could do gingham for Christmas? I mean, why not? So I had struck on the idea of cutting up one of my sticker sheets into strips. So I cut them all into, I think they're roughly centimetre strips. And I thought I could do like paper weaving. So I'm sticking down the vertical ones first. I'm doing it by eye, I'm not measuring. That's another thing you'll notice. I'm too lazy to measure half the time. So I'm just sticking all down the vertical ones first. And I figured if I stick them down at the bottom and gradually peel the backing off as I go, I can sort of paper weave all the pieces when I put the horizontal ones on and have this sort of woven sticker strip effect on my cover. So the vertical ones are just kind of a plain pink, and then I figure what I'll do for the horizontal ones is use my lovely glittery, sparkly, gold painty washi paper sticker. So again, cutting those into 1 centimetre strips. So yeah, this is how I start the process. So I peel up just the very bottom of the paper and stick the very bottom down. Do this with all the vertical ones. And then once those are all stuck down, it's time to start weaving in and out. So I'm just testing it with a strip here to see how it's going to work. Yeah, and then I just start sticking. So this was quite a fiddly process, let's be honest, because you had to like peel and stick and peel and stick, and at the same time try and work out which one's going over and which is going under. And I'm sure there is probably a quicker way to do it. I mean, I could have painted the strips on, but sometimes I quite enjoy doing these things that are very labour intensive, just for the enjoyment of doing them, if you see what I mean. So I quite enjoyed just spending a few moments sort of enjoying the challenge of trying to work out which one goes over and which one goes under, and getting all the pieces stuck down. So you can see underneath that's what the cover looks like when it's finished. Now, um, I did actually make the mistake of spray varnishing it. Well, I don't know if there is a mistake or not, but I wanted to kind of keep it so that the ink wouldn't come off if it got rubbed. And I used a very clear, well, completely clear matte spray varnish on it. And it sort of dulled the colours. And I was a little bit disappointed that I'd done that. But never mind, you live and learn. And perhaps I won't spray it next time. I think I am going to have another go with the sparkly paint on the washi paper, sticker paper. So perhaps I'll not varnish that one. So for the spine, I am just taking the sort of thicker Japanese washi paper, sticker paper, and I did go up and down the sides with the patterned pinking shears so that the edges were a bit more interesting, not just straight. And when I came to stick it down, I did think, oh Lord, it's all crinkly cronkly when you get to the gaps. It's like, oh dear. But you just get your or you just get a tool. I used this one, which is a bamboo folder, bamboo bone folder, and sort of work it into the crack. And in the end, it didn't look quite so crumpled up and strange. But you need to have that gap there, as I said, for flexibility. So yeah, a bit of fiddling, a bit of poking and wriggling, and it does eventually look completely fine. And then I did snip up those gaps when I folded the sticky spine onto the inside. It just made it a little bit easier to do it that way. So yeah, that is my cover done on the outside. And then it comes, what am I going to put on the inside? And I decided to stick these pieces of the wallpaper because they just fit perfectly. And I quite like the contrast. You know, got pink on the cover, pinky red on the cover, and quite nice to have green inside. And as for the inside of the spine, I'm just taking a piece of this other sticker paper and sticking that one down. It's a lot easier, I have to say. It is probably more expensive, but it is a lot easier to do all your sort of collage-y painting onto sticker paper, and then you just stick it down. You don't have to worry about glue or anything like that. And it gives a really nice smooth stick. Whereas I find, because I use liquid glue most of the time, it buckles your paper and your paper goes all warped and all that kind of thing. But sticker paper just goes on so smoothly. So it's definitely a technique I'd recommend, but it obviously does work out a little bit more expensive than just working on plain paper. So that's basically it for my cover. It's all ready to go for me to then decide what signatures I'm going to put inside, what pages I'm going to use. So there we have it. That is my cover. Now it's not going to stay like this. I think I'm probably going to collage all sorts of bits on top of it. I'm going to obviously put the date on there. I need to make it more Christmassy. It's actually very pink. And I know my colour scheme is veering towards the pinky purples instead of the traditional Christmas reds. But I do want to make it more Christmassy, more obviously Christmassy. So I'm going to be putting some more things on the front to make it super Christmassy. But for now, it's basically all ready to go for me to put the signatures inside. Oh, this is just me showing you the difference between the unvarnished and the varnished strip. So can you see the strip I've just put on the front is the unvarnished, and there's definitely sparkle to it. But all the sparkle from my strips that I spray varnished on the cover, unfortunately, are dulled and not sparkly anymore. But never mind, that's a lesson learned, and I know not to do that next time. So yeah, I'm all ready to go, and my next video is going to be about my signatures, what papers I'm going to use, how many papers I'm going to use. I'm planning on designing a lot of the pages to go inside, and I might be using this fabric TN that I whipped up the other day, maybe to temporarily store the signatures. So rather than working directly into the book, I may use my fabric traveler's notebook cover on the left there to kind of keep the papers in while I work on them. I haven't really decided yet exactly, but I will be keeping you updated. So that's where I'm up to. So you can see my junk journal for 2021 has started officially. It's on the right there, just waiting for me to sort out the page to go inside. So hopefully I will see you in the next video, which is going to be about me putting in the signatures. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're all doing well and you're all getting into the Christmas mood, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.